Hello, this is Danny from CG Dreams. Today we're going to be looking at a program called PowerDirector 18. We're in version Ultimate and we're going to be discussing workflows. So what's the idea of workflows? Well, the idea is all in the word flow. We want to be able to flow through our project as quick as possible and efficient as possible by getting around any crevice problems that may arise within the software itself, and by going for a procedure that gets you from A to B in as fast as possible. I'm going to be taking you through this process and I'm going to be going through it in a quick and fast possible way so that I can utilize some of the things I'm going to actually talk about for this video itself. One of the first things I'm going to bring up is organization, keeping organized. This is something that I've learned over the years from using many other pieces of software, sometimes very complicated technical software, and you end up building up loads and loads of file assets, and you can get into a bit of a muddle, especially after you've created various projects of a similar nature. So the first thing I want to point out is you want to make folders per project. In other words, if you've gone to a particular location where you filmed, title that folder the particular location that you filmed. Also include the name of it, the date of it, and any relevant information that you think makes this specific to the particular video that you've been recording. This is so that later on, be it a couple of months down the line, you can go back and you can say, I want to find my old project and I know what I'm looking for. It's really important that you do this. The next thing is number 2, to gather all content into one location. The reason for this is because there may be a case in the future where you open up an old video that you've been editing and then you get this warning message come up and it says cannot find this asset. The likelihood is that you've made a video project with files located on different hard drives, different thumb drives, different locations, and you probably deleted some of them over time. It's so essential in this particular case then to gather all of your assets, or even as you go along, make sure you just drop them into the main project folder. Now, in some programs such as PowerDirector itself, you do have the ability to get PowerDirector to collect all the assets to bring them into one place, but you might as well do it from the beginning. Get used to this workflow, because this is something that you're going to want to do with all your software that you've got, so that you don't lose your project files and then you're able to transfer them from one computer to another, because everything is contained in the same location. Number 3 is use correct description in the naming. It's so tempting when you're on a rush to not name files properly, but in the long run it's definitely worth doing. If you don't, you're going to be looking at your files and you're going to be thinking, what version is the latest one? Why did I not name it in a certain way? Because I done a change to this particular file that was important and it looks identical to the other file. It's so important to get your naming and description right. This is going to help you, especially down the line. And number 4, the fourth thing, is to save revisions. This means you don't overwrite the initial file that you've created from PowerDirector. What this means is that PowerDirector has got his own file type, and this is the actual project itself, not the content of the project, which is the video and the images and the music, but it's the actual file of the construction that gets opened inside PowerDirector. Save different versions. So whenever you make some really big changes to your project, save it as version 2 or version 3. Now, what I tend to do is I have this workflow in my mind, and you can adopt this if you like. If it's a minor change, I would call it version 1.1, version 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. But if I've made a major change in the project, something quite drastic, I will call it a new revision name. So I'll call it version 2. And then if there's some small incremental changes in that version 2, I'll call it version 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, and so on. So I keep the main revision numbering for drastic changes. Version 1, version 2, version 3, this means they're big changes. If there's small changes, I call them version 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. This way you're going to know whether you're opening a project which has got a major change in it, and it's a good landmark point if you discovered that that major change didn't actually work out as well as you thought it was, so that you can go back to the previous revision of your file projects. Briefly about construction. This is something that we want to keep in our mind's eye about how we're constructing our video, so that we can keep the viewer's attention. And I'm going to go about the viewer's attention in a minute. The construction is really important because we could have parts of this video which is just longing it out. There could be parts that's got the same scene over and over again, irrelevant information in it, and it may be helpful for you for a future blog, but it might not be very engaging for the viewer. So you might consider creating two versions of your project. You might want to create a version for YouTube for entertainment, and create a version for yourself that you can maybe unlist, so it may have information that only you're interested in. So in this chart here, you can see it's quite simple. We've got an introduction, which is in the pink at the far left, and then we've got this build up. Now I've intentionally made this build up area larger than any other part of the content of the video, and this build up is the part where you're setting up your gear. You're just introducing your gear maybe to the viewer, and you're just waiting for something to happen, waiting for the action part. You don't want to have it like it's shown in this graph, where the build up is crazy long. Now maybe in a particular video you can't help that because it's a waiting game for the action to happen, but try to keep this as short as possible, because as you'll discover in a minute on the next part about attention span, it's really important that we keep the attention of the viewer so that they don't switch off and just go to another video somewhere else. The next area we're looking at is in blue, and these are little stripes of action, as you can see there. So we've got a bit of action. Action's normally quite a short period of time compared with the rest, so we need to make sure that it really does stand out. So we want to add some action to it visually, but we also want to change the action with the music as well. If something's exciting, make it more exciting. You don't want the build up or the part where it's quite calm to have exactly the same music where it is the action, because you're basically going to be nullifying the action itself. Now you've got some action that's going on. You notice in between the action that there's a stripe of build up again. You want to keep these stripe of build ups relatively short. So you don't want these long periods of time between each action unless it can't be helped. And then finally, when we come out of the action part, you've got the breakdown part where you're coming towards the end of the session or to end of the video footage, where you're basically saying, well, it's the end of the day, we've achieved what we want or we haven't, and thanks for watching, kind of thing. So in this breakdown part, you want to have the music calm down a little bit. Don't have this part too long, and then go into your outro, which will be the outro music and maybe credits. In overall, you want to make sure that you don't long out the slow parts in your video unless you have really good information in that particular part of the video. In a day and age of instant gratification, this means that people's attention span is very, very short. Now, after doing some research on the internet, I found that the average attention span for YouTube is actually 2 minutes, meaning statistically, after about 2 minutes, people tend to switch off and they will change the channel, unless there's something happening within the video to regain their attention. So it's a good idea to think about this, that towards the end of every 2 minutes, you want to have something engaging or something that's going to keep them hanging on a little bit longer. So for instance, at the end of the 2 minutes, you may have a piece which says, next we're going to be looking at bait, or next we're going to be looking at how we can achieve this or do that. It's giving them a reason to stay there. So keep that in mind, that unless your target audience is prepared to sit there and wait and watch for a long period of time, try to keep that attention span within the 2 minutes. And we're not talking about the whole entire video because that's impossible, although some videos could be achieved with 2 minutes. But for these like vlogs, try to keep your attention there. The next thing is keep the introduction short. Obviously, you're going to need to introduce your video. You're going to need to let them know what is in for them when they're going to be watching the entirety of it. For this reason, you want to keep it as short as possible. Just say your name, possibly, the date, the time of year, and a brief description of what's going to be included in this video. This could be the difference between somebody switching over to another channel on YouTube or staying with you. As an example, for me, when I do sea fishing off the beach, I say something like, hello, I'm Danny, and today we're going to be fishing at this location. It's September the 25th, 2020, and my target species today is da 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 da. The weather conditions are blah blah blah, and things like that. While I'm actually saying this, I could even have some information up visually on the screen to avoid me having to even say it, such as deeper information, such as the tide times, the weather, the temperature. I could have that up there all the time while I'm giving a brief description to the actual content of the video. The final thing that I want to touch on is offer something that others don't. Look at similar videos to your own, watch through them and think, I like this particular video because of. Note it down, write it down on a piece of paper or in a file and say, I like this particular guy on YouTube because he may be witty, because I like the clarity of his video, I like the shots that he has in there, like in between him talking, I like the fact that he cuts to the chase. There could be a variety of reasons that draws your attention to a particular YouTuber. So take note of this and try to mimic what he does in some way to get that same kind of feeling, but at the same time try to think of something that he doesn't offer or others don't offer. It could be more deeper information about your particular session, or it could be that you just want to cut to the point a little bit quicker. The first thing you want to do when you get in Power Director is select all of the content that's already in here, Control and A, and then delete. And next thing, you want to go to your browser, select all your video files that's for your project. I'm going to go there, and I'm going to drag and drop into there. So it's going to bring it all in. So the first thing is we want to bring all the video footage into the content media browser inside here. And if you've only got your video footage to start with, then you'll just drag your first clip into the timeline here. If, like me, you've got like a little tiny still image as an introduction to your video channel, you want to put that in first, because if that's going to be as part of your video, then that's the first thing that needs to be in there. So the order is very important. You don't want to be adding this introduction still image later on because it's going to be taking up room, which means you have to shift all of the videos to the right just to fit it in. So in my particular case, I've got this still image in there, and I've chosen a piece of music from the content browser, and I've got a fade out. Now the best way to create a fade out I found for music is to go into the keyframe editor. So you select your music track, you click on the keyframe, and it's quite simple. You'll see what you need in front of you. So what I've got here is I've got this volume by default, which is closed. I'm going to expand this, and you'll see the decibels on which is set at for each key. So if I click on there, you'll see that I've got this key at 0 decibels. The next key is at 0 decibels, and then the next key is going to be infinity at 0, meaning it's completely turned down to nothing. So how do we do this? Why do we need to do this? Well, this is because we need to have in here a keyframe to indicate where it's going to fade out. So the way it works is that we're not going to have this key initially. Let's just delete this and show you what it was like before. This was at 0 decibels. This is what things look like before. We've got this piece of music, it starts and it ends abruptly. We want to add a fade out. So what we can do is we can choose where we want that fade out to be, and you don't want to go to your timeline at this particular point because you'll see that it takes you out the keyframe editor. So what you want to do is you want to do it from here. As you move this, it gives you an idea on the timeline whereabouts you are in relation to the end of the music clip. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a key. You see this little button here, and this key is going to make sure that we still stay at the same volume level. Okay, the last key there, I want to be at 0, well, minus 0 decibels. We want it to be at infinity nothing. So if there's not a key there at the very end, then create one with this little tiny diamond button there. And then when you've created it, get this volume level and go to that. And you'll notice in the timeline, now we've got this fade out. The beauty about this is that if you find a fade out is too abrupt, let's just play this back, which it was, you can grab this key, the key that's previous before it fading out, and we can just move this back a little bit. You can see here now that it's brought it back. Now it's imperative before that you do any fading in, fading out, that you set your level of your audio before the case. Because once you do this, it's going to be harder to set your overall level of your volume. So the first thing that you want to do is whenever you're dealing with audio, or either as music or video audio, you want to make sure that the levels are exactly the level that you want before you do anything else. In my particular case, this introduction music was the right audio level to start with, so I was absolutely fine with that. All I had to do is just add this fade out. But in the case of the next clip, well, I'm going to delete this. The next clip came in and it was a little bit too quiet. So the first thing you want to do is drag your clip in to bolt on to the end of your intro clip, if you've got one. Listen to it.
It's a lovely morning. It's the 2nd of September 2020.
Go to a YouTube video which is produced professionally and see what decibel level that sounds like to your ear. Go by that and then come back in here and then you can adjust this. So we're going to do this for the whole entire clip before we even start to break it up into pieces. It's really important that you deal with the audio at the first instance, because otherwise you're going to have to deal with each individual clip's audio as you split them up. So I'm going to just increase this up like this. You can do it by visually, which I don't like the idea of, or you can go into your keyframe, which I do like the idea of. It's much better doing it here. Now, if it's the case you want to raise the overall level inside here, which is what I want to do, make sure that if you've got a key at the end, you can see there I have, just going to click on this key at the end. We want to remove all keyframes, okay? If you can. It might be the case that it won't let you. In either case, you want to go to your first keyframe and then we can increase the volume from there, okay? So we'll increase the volume. You've got much more control over this. You can do it in small increments, you can see. And then play it back.
It's a lovely morning. It's the 2nd of September.
So that's more like it. It's 5.1 decibels. Make sure it's the same at the very end, otherwise it's going to be fading out. So we're going to go to here. I'm going to type in 5.1 in there. So if you don't do this, if you've got a key at the end and a key at the beginning and they're not matching, it's going to be fading from one to the other. So I'm going to make sure that they are matched, and they are. Now, because I know that my video footage is going to be quite the same when it comes to audio level, I'm going to keep a note of this, that I needed to add an extra 5.1 decibels. So I can just type this in straight away when it comes to another clip. The next thing is I want to start to break this clip down into multiple clips. So this is I'm going to refer to in the future as the footage. And then as I'm going to start splitting the footage up, it's going to create multiple clips from it. So that's just listen to when we want to break this short. And the video that I'm going to be doing as a demonstration in here is going to be like one for a viewer. So I'm going to cut it as short as I can to get only the relevant information in there.
It's a lovely morning, it's the 2nd of September.
So the first thing that I want to do is I want to cut out any of this movement of the camera. Something that I've learned over the last few weeks is I must do all of my camera positioning before I start talking. There's been many occasions, including in this particular video, where I was talking while I was moving the camera, and unfortunately once you do that you can't have both. You can't split them up, unfortunately. You can have all the rumble and the movement of the camera. So I did that at the very beginning, so I'm going to just bring this out. I'm going to cut this out at the very beginning. You can see the waveform, it's got that little tiny spike, so I'm going to start from here. It's going to be much more better now. Don't worry about transitions at the moment. If you find that it stops, it's because we're in clip mode. You want to be in movie mode so that it plays the whole lot.
It's a lovely morning, it's the 2nd of September 2020, and I'm down at the first lot of Great Rocks between Bridgeway and Old Stamcote.
I'm going to chop it there. I'm going to look at my waveform, and you may want to expand this so you can see this better. And I'm going to pick to the point where I'm going to say my next word. About there would do. And then I'm going to cut it. So Control and T. I'm going to look for another clip later on that I might want.
Although it's a 0.7 metre, it's the problem with today is
I'm looking for a gap in the audio where it's not spiking. It indicates that there's a pause of me speaking between it.
Set that up and cast out.
That'd be a good point. So I'm going to split there, delete this in between, remove the gap, and then we're going to go back to where we are to choose where to change that. So
fortunately, the only problem with today is, although it's a 0.7 metre, it's not necessarily that great for me for fishing right now, because I've just passed all the snagged areas and they're covered over now.
I'm going to chop it there and choose to delete the rest of the clip. Now this is important, that if you do choose to have any overlapping by means of doing the crossfade by dragging one clip over the top of the other, it's important that you do this before you add any more clips after it, because you've got no way of it automatically shifting to the left for you. Fortunately, this is not a feature inside this program when it needs to be. It's a kind of very basic feature. So I'm going to look as to, at this point, before I go any further, I've got my audio level right, I've got my introduction done with the music. You don't have to have the music yet, but I had to set that at the beginning because I didn't know how long to have this still clip for. Transitions, I could either drag this over the top of the other one to give myself a little bit of a crossfade. So we'll just look at that.
Fortunately,
the thing with the crossfade is, this particular type of crossfade in particular, is that you are shortening your clip each time that you overlap it. So that's something you want to keep in mind, that it may not match up with some audio that you have for a particular length, or if you wanted your video to be a particular length in total, each time you do this drag over the top of the other clip to do a crossfade, it's going to make it shorter. The crossfades I will tend to limit for when there's time passed between one clip and the next. In other words, if I have a clip that I've edited and I'm speaking to the camera, I'm in exactly the same location, exactly the same angle of the shot, the background's exactly the same, and I'm just doing the same thing but just talking about something different, it's not a good time for me to start to do this overlapping. It's going to look very odd. The best times to do an overlap with crossfade is when you're going from one scene to a completely different visual scene. This would look fine, but try not to do it too often. If in this particular case I'm standing with the sea behind me, I've got nothing different in my hand between this clip and this clip. Well, I've actually got a rod in this particular case, so I could get away with a crossfade because there's something different. If there's something different happening between one clip and the other, to that degree indicates that time has lapsed between one clip and the next. So you could have it quickly jump from one clip to the other, which is what it's going to do now.
Bridgeway and Old Stamco. Unfortunately, the only problem with...
So that would work absolutely fine. I could work with that and it would look fine. But because I am actually in a different kind of position where I'm standing further away from the camera, I'm holding a rod, I could do a crossfade here, but I'm going to choose not to do that. Another thing to look for is, it looks as though I'm about to speak and say another word, so I want to chop that out of the scene. You see my lips just opening up there? So I'm just going to use this next frame. Just about to open my mouth. Oh, there it is. So go back one frame, and that will be an indicator to me that I need to chop that little bit off. So to do that, because it's at the very end, I'll select the clip, and then I will drag, and as you drag, you'll notice it locks. You see that? That blue, it locks, because it knows where you had your timeline position. And we're just going to trim and move all clips. And now I don't open my mouth before it goes into the next scene.
Stamco. Unfortunately, the only problem with today is...
So that's fine. It's a direct cut from one to the other. It indicates that that's a good next part of the scene. And then I'm going to go to my next clip. So I'm going to just choose something a little bit more random, but you want to do it in the order in which you're recording it at. So I'm going to just go back. I'm going to bring in a clip at random, but you want to do a clip which is in order for you. So I'm going to bring in the next clip. The first thing I'm going to do, the same as before, is I'm going to check the audio level. It doesn't look as though I was speaking in this anyway, so that's fine. So we're going to go like that, go around it, do a 360, we're going to go to there. I'm going to chop it there, delete the rest. And because it's a completely different scene between this and this, I'm going to do a crossfade. I'm going to drag this over there to do a crossfade. I'm going to choose for this clip to be sped up. So to do this, we hold down the control key, and you'll notice the icon changes when you do this. I'm going to drag this to the left, and it's making the clip shorter, which is indicating that it's speeding it up. So if I go halfway, for instance, it's going to be doing it at double the time. And now when I play it back, it's going to go and play that quicker. For me, that's not quick enough. I want to add this just to keep the attention of the viewer as it goes to the next part of the clip. So what I want to do here is I just want to gauge how long this is. I'm going to go to my media, background music, and see if we can pick something here. It's not a comedy, so we won't go with that. That'll do. I'm going to drag that, and I'm going to put it on the music track. I'm going to do it during the crossfade. You notice that? So I'm doing it so the music's going to come in during the crossfade. We're going to go to the end of the clip and a little bit further than the clip to allow a bit of a crossfade to the next clip that's going to come after it. You see that? I've just added a little bit extra. Control and T, cut that off. I am going to have a fade in and a fade out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in there I'm going to go to my keyframe. I'm going to do it all in here. I'm going to move along, say to about there. I'm going to add a key. Don't have to change anything there for the moment. We're going to go right to the near the end where I want it to kind of start to fade out again. You notice that I'm positioning it near the end of the last clip, so it's going to start to fade out during the transition time. So I'm going to add a key, go to the very end, add a key. At the key at the beginning and the end is where I want to have it to 0. So I'm going to go to the very end. I'm going to move the slider to 0. Not 0 decibels, but to infinity, which means basically it's at no decibels at all. And do the same at the beginning. So now we've got a transition, which is great. Let's play this back and see what we've got.
Now.
Be in movie mode. Okay, so I've got my audio in there. Remember, the first thing that you must always do is whenever you bring audio in or a clip is to adjust the overall audio level to what you want. Because it's music, I'm fine with that level, but anything else, if it's too loud, you want to do that right away. If you do your fading in and fading out before you do that, the only way to then really rectify that is to go to your keyframe editor, go to the key in which it's at its loudest, which is that particular key, and bring it down to what you want it to be. So I'm going to bring it up. In fact, I'm going to bring it up to another 2 decibels higher. I'm also going to go to the next key. You notice you've got a bit of a slope there in the timeline. I don't want that. I added a 2 to the previous key. I'm going to add 2 to the next key. So now the overall level's higher. Now I'm going to go back to my media and put the next clip in. And again, I'm going to do this quite random. Let's try this clip here. And we don't know what it's saying replace for. Here we go. Let's just play that back. So it looks like I'm just lagging up. So that's just put that on. I don't want this to be a long time period at all. Let's just play that back. By this point, the viewer can clearly see what I'm doing. I don't need to explain it. I'm going to cut it right there. Now, I just made a mistake right there. And what was it I did? The mistake was I made a cut before I checked the audio level. So I'm just going to press Control and Z. This is a brand new clip now, so I need to make sure that the clip is at the right audio level. If you remember that the first clip I brought in, I had to adjust it by 5.1 decibels. So if I click on this previous clip and go to my keyframe editor, you'll see when I go to the volume, it's 5.1 decibels. You see that there? So I want to have it the same for this particular clip. It has to be 5.1 decibels. So I'm going to type that into there. 5.1. It's going to adjust it for the overall clip. Now I can start to do my editing. You notice I just left the camera. See that? I don't want none of that in there, so I'm going to move it to a point where I'm just doing the task. And then I'm going to go to the beginning of this clip, move it, and you see it lock with a blue line. The blue line indicates that that is where I previously had my timeline marker. And that's the point in which I want to cut it. And then I'm going to move it back into place. And then we're going to have a little bit of time go by. It's plenty clear enough that what I'm doing here. I'm going to cut it there. I'm going to move forward to when I'm doing a bit of talking. Let's just move down here. Out of the way. Okay, that'd be a good point to create a split. We delete that, remove all, and shift the whole lot over. In this particular case, it is clearly a point in which it's going to be crossfading, and so is this one here. You don't want to start splitting up loads of clips and then decide to do your crossfadings. You do it as you go. So I'm going to crossfade this clip, and I'm also going to crossfade this clip. It's a different time period, there's enough time gone, and the scene is actually changed. So it's going to look right. So let's go and play it back now. Make sure you're in movie mode and play it back.
Covered over now.
Now this is going to be an editor's cut, meaning that I'm going to make it short. Let's move along until we see some action. So I just say something there, don't I? So I'm going to remove that. I'm going to crossfade it because, unless I've actually I'm standing in exactly the same position, I won't crossfade it because it'll look weird. Let's just check. I think I'm standing, yeah, see I'm standing forward there, so it's an entirely different clip. It looks weird. It may be similar in nature, but I'm completely different position, so I'm going to crossfade it. And it's also going to indicate that time's passed, because that is a fact of why I've cut the clip. This is going to be the action part, so I'm going to keep an eye on this.
Yes, catch of a lifetime.
So I've just gone off screen. I've made a little bit of a bump on there. I'm going to cut that out. I'm going to cut it right there. Another reason why I'm going to cut it there also is because I want to do a fade in. Now the fade in, there's an issue with this program when it comes to fading in, cropping or fading in. The issue is that whenever you do a cut after you've done your fading in, fading out, what it will do is it will actually copy the keyframes for that fade in to the next clip, which you may not want. So in the way in which you go from this direction onwards is to what kind of effect you want at the outcome. If you want it to zoom in onto a clip and stay there on that zoom in, and then when it goes to the next clip that you've clipped and made a cut, you want that next clip to also be staying on that zoom in, then what you would do is you would do your zoom in first before you do your clipping. So I will just repeat that again so it makes sense. If you're going to be slicing your clip, okay, that you've got here, and you're going to be zooming in at some point during the clip on a particular part of your video footage, and then you want the clip that after you've sliced to be zoomed in at exactly the same level as where the last clip was, what you want to do is you want to do your zoom in first. Okay, so this creates a little bit more of a complicated workflow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip this. This workflow is in the previous video. I'm going to go to the way which is simple, and that is to zoom in onto the footage that you want and then zoom back out to the full screen before you go to the next clip. That's the most simplest way to do it, and I will cover the other way a little bit later on, but we're going to do the simple way. So at this particular point, I'm going to do a cut, Control and T. I've not done no zooming. This means that the next clip that's going to play after my cut is going to be at full screen. You see here, it's going to be at full screen. It doesn't matter that it's at full screen because I'm going to zoom in and out of this particular clip and it's going to become full screen by the time we get to the end of it again. As it so happens, the next clip I don't want anyway, so I'm going to be streaming this down and doing a crossfade. So that's just do that now.
Woo! Look at that.
I'm going to cut it to there. Rather than use the Control and T key, I'm very close to the beginning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark where I want it to be cut, and then I'm just going to drag it. And you'll notice it locks with the blue. It indicates that that's where you add your position marker. And now I can just move this down. No crossfades yet. I'm going to go into this clip, go to my tools, power tools, and then go to crop, zoom and pan. This is where I'm going to do in all my close-up footage for this particular clip. So there's a keyframe at the beginning which is indicating we're on the full screen, and then I want it to zoom in at a particular point. So I'm going to play this back. So I'm going to say by the time I get to this point in the video, I want to be fully zoomed in, okay, on this particular area. Now there's going to have to be a transitioning point, the point where it stays where it is at full screen to the point where it actually starts to transition to zoom in. So this is where I want my keyframe to be zoomed fully in. So I'm going to add a keyframe. See that? And just click to the side, and then I'm going to choose how long I want it to take to zoom into that point. So this is going to be going back. I'm going to say between here and here is where I want it to zoom in. Okay. The further away you have one key to the next is the longer transition period it's going to be from one change to the next. So if I want it to be slowly zooming in, I may want to have it doing it from back here. Let's go for a slow zoom in. I'm going to add a keyframe. This keyframe there is still at the full screen. It's at this keyframe that I'm going to select, okay, that I want it to be fully zoomed in. So I'm going to select this, and I'm going to use the handles. I'm going to zoom in on the area. That's great. Now let's play this back. We're going to go to the beginning. It's going to hold there, hold there, and hold there. It's going to hold on the full screen until it reaches the next key. And from that next key onwards, it's going to start transitioning to the zooming in. You ready? It's going to start zooming now. Look at the top right. It's going to give you a little tiny preview of what it looks like without the outside frame. The reason why you see this outside frame is because you need to be able to see what you're cutting out. So if there's some particular details that you're cutting out, you may want to go back and adjust how far you zoomed in. That's why you're seeing the outside here. The top right is showing you what it looks like on the actual footage. So I'm going to stay zoomed in all the way through this. The next thing I'm going to show you how to zoom in and zoom out on a clip, but also have slow motion happen on that clip at the same time as well. Now, depending on whether you've got that key combination of zooming and slowing down and speeding up maybe, is to the way that you go about doing it inside Power Director. So the first scenario would be, is I'm going to pick a clip which is going to have some zoom in on it. So this is the way that you would go about doing this. First of all, you choose at what point you're going to be having your zooming in. I'm going to say at this point. So I'm going to just clip it there. And I've cast, I'm going to clip it there. Remember, this clip's going to be for slow motion, okay? But we also want some zooming in and zooming out as well. So what we do is we're going to create a little bit of room by moving the other clip to the right. We're going to increase this before we do our zoom in, Control key, so that we make sure that we've got it at the right speed. I could have done with it speeding up from that point onwards, but it was slowing down. So I'm going to leave it at that, just to keep it simple. Done my cast. And then it goes back to normal time again after that, as you'll see when I play this back. Are you ready? It's going to go back to normal time as soon as it hits the next clip. There we go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go in there and do the zoom and pan. You're better off to do this after you've done your slow-mo. So I'm going to go in like that. Or up to this point, I'm fine at the full screen view. By the time I'm getting ready to cast, I'd say about there. It's about there I want it to start zooming in, so I'm going to add a key. Move on. By there it has to be fully zoomed in. So I'm going to create a key. Zoom in. Continue it to play. Done the cast. Add a key to stay at that zoom level. And then add a final key to zoom back out to the full screen. Move to the middle, expand it and click OK. Now I've got both the slow-mo and I've got the zoom in. You see it now, you notice it keeps on going between clip mode and movie mode. We want to make sure they're always in movie mode most of the time. So that's how you do the combination of having both zooming in and doing a slow-mo or a speed up. You're always better off to do your slowing down or speeding up first, and then secondary to that, go in there and then do your zooming in and zooming out. Remember that the slow-mo will change the timing of your video as to how long it is or how short it is. So it's best to do it in that order. So the next thing is after we've done that, we need to have certain areas in the video where you may want to have a screenshot, like a still image. But before we do this, I'm going to just go over in the other workflow that you can use to do your slowing down and speeding up. Now, in this particular workflow, you would not be using any panning and zooming. Okay, you don't want to be doing any panning and zooming on this particular workflow because it doesn't really work with this. So if your scene's going to stay as it is, we'll do it with this piece here. I'm going to just chop it there, I'd say. I'll show you the other way that you can do this slow-mo effect. This way you've got a lot more control in what you can achieve with this. I'll show you what it is in a second. So we've got the clip. We're going to want some slowing down and speeding up within the clip, which is all fine and dandy. For the purpose of this video, I'm also going to go in there to show you what happens when you go to use your zoom and pan in this. So I'm going to play it. I'll get ready to do a cast. Okay, I want to be zoomed in fully by this point. Create a key. We're going to go back and create another key so that we've got a transition time period where it's going to go from fully zoomed out to fully zoomed in. I'm going to go and adjust my zoom. Give myself some room there to cast. And then we're going to keep that level there until after I cast. Add a key. Remember, these duplicate keyframes are there to hold a zoom level so that it starts to zoom after that. I'm going to go back to full screen again by the time we get to here. Back to the middle, back out fully. Now, I've intentionally done the pan and zoom in to show you what happens when you use this next method for doing slow-mo. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to a different set of tools this time. And this one is called, if I can see it there. Nope, I think it might be in Designer. There it is. Action Camera Center. With your clip selected, go into Action Camera Center and you'll be presented with some new tools that I haven't showed you before. Now you see it says there, this clip was previously trimmed in another time shift. Some functions may not be available for this time shift. This is because I've done some panning and zooming before I've done this, okay? So we can see what the effect is to this. So the way we do this is we're going to watch this back. And you notice when you're watching this back that your panning and zooming that you previously had isn't actually working. See that? It's just jumped straight to the zoom in. So my advice to you would be to not use your panning and zoom in if you're going to use this method of slow-mo. But we can still show you how to use this in the method of slow-mo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go forward to the point in which I want the slow-mo to happen, which is probably about there. And then what you can do is you can apply a speed effect. Now, the problem with this now is that we've got no way to mark the speed effect. You see this create time shift? See that little tiny eye there? You need to create a time shift before applying effects. So there we go. We got to this point and then you'll find I can't use this feature because guess what? I done a zoom in and panning before I even used it. This is why I actually intentionally showed you this just before I did this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and undo this. This is kind of like a show you a warning as to what not to do. Don't do your panning and zooming on a clip that you want to use this method. So I'm going to select, I'm going to remove this key. Use the minus, remove this key, remove this key. There's no need to have any other keys in there other than the first one. Okay, now we go to our designer, we go to our Action Camera Center. We should now be able to go to our time shift. And you can see then, even then it's still picking up that we had done something previous. You can see the dangers of doing this. Add a speed effect, the time shift is not available. So I'm gonna have to go back, Control and Z a few stages now, just to get to the point before I've done any of this zooming and panning. It's crazy, I know, but so now we can do it the correct way. So I'm going to split. I'm going to do no panning, zooming. I'm going to do just the split. Go to my designer. Go to Action Camera Center. And hopefully this time, yeah, we've got no warning messages coming up. And we've got this button back, which is called Create Time Shift. So you can see here by demonstration that you do not want to do any panning and zoom in if you're going to use this method of doing this slow-mo effect. I showed you the other way of doing the slow-mo effect, a manual way of doing it, which you can do the pan and zoom in before it or after it. It doesn't matter. This way you don't want to do no panning and zooming. So what we do is we're going to go forward in time to the point where I'm going to do this cast. It's from that point onwards. And then what you do is you click on this create time shift. And you can see this got this little box. This box can be expanded or moved anywhere you want to the beginning, to mark the beginning and the end of the time shift. So I'm going to just play this. Okay, the cast is over. We want the time shift to go as far as that. So I'm going to move up to about there. There's no time shift done yet, but we marked the area in which we want to go slow-mo. And that's on the casting part. So we're going to go up, casting, and then go normal again. Okay, so with this selected, this is the area you want to go slow-mo. You've got an additional feature that you haven't got when you do the manual slow-mo. And that's called what's called ease in, ease out. What ease in, ease out means is it basically is when you're going to go from full speed to slow-mo, it makes sure that it slowly, gradually goes from full speed to then slow. You understand that? And that's what's called ease in. It's going to ease in from a normal speed to a slower speed, or a faster speed indeed, but it can ease in either way. It can do the same at the very end. Rather than it suddenly going from full speed to slow speed and then slow speed direct to full speed like a jump, it can transition that. So we go to apply speed effect, we tick this ease in and ease out, which is going to make it smoother, and then we're going to just use this multiply. If we want to go faster, we drag it up. If we want to go slower, we drag it down. I want to go slower, so I'm going to drag it down. And now when I play this back, you'll see that it goes from full speed and it's slowly transitioned into a slower speed. So this is a much more professional look when you're going from full speed to slow speed. See that? Much more smoother. And when it comes back out to full speed again, you'll see just how smooth it comes out. See that? Very smooth. Now that you've done this effect, there are some other things that you can do in it, like stop motion. So we can go, let's say when the rod's fully bending, or the bait's right up in the air like that, you can apply stop motion in there. This is a freeze frame. This is very similar to when you want to take a snapshot and have a freeze frame just for a second. You can use this freeze frame, but be warned, whenever you do a snapshot or use a freeze frame, that it's going to be taking a picture shot. If you're going to do any color grading to your video footage, you do it before you do this. If you're going to use this freeze frame, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to click OK. And then we've got our composited freeze frame. Let's just play this back. This is not a freeze frame, this is a slow-mo. So, slow. Now you notice that this clip looks a little bit different to the other clips. It's got like a little icon on there. What this means is it's an action clip. Action clips have got restrictions. And one of those restrictions is that it doesn't actually hold any adjustment for your colour. You notice that when you select this action clip, the option's gone. If I select another clip, you've got this fix and enhance, whereas this you haven't got no fix and enhance. So in order to apply a fix and enhance to the overall clips for your colour grading, you need to expand this that you've just done. So we right click, we click on show individual clips, and now you'll see what it's automatically done in order to create this special effect. This is an automatic process. We go down to there, and here it is. And then it goes out. Great. So now that we've done this, we may want to have a freeze frame, and the freeze frame can be done from two ways. You can go to this snapshot, take snapshot, and it's going to take a picture of this current frame, or we can go back into our Action Cam Center and do a freeze frame in there. It does exactly the same thing. But, and this is very important, you must do your color grading before. This is so important. You must do your color grading right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a clip which I feel is overall showing me the kind of color that's in the scene. And then I'm going to go select this clip, go to Fix and Enhance. And I'm going to go to color adjustment. The ones that you normally go for would be contrast, brightness and saturation and vibrancy. They're the main ones. Exposure is meant for lighting condition. If your lighting condition is blown out badly, then you can reduce the exposure and it will bring back some of the detail back into your clip. If it's not bright enough and you could do some more exposure, then you can bring that up. But you can see the exposure has a tendency to blow things out or reduce the blowout. So I'm going to just leave that where it is. I'm going to go to my brightness instead, the overall brightness. Okay. And contrast, a little bit of contrast, and add a little bit of saturation. Put a little bit more color into it. You can turn that off just to preview what it looks like with and without. That's before and that's after. Another way that you can apply this is to apply an effect. I will show you that in the next video. But if you want to go to this adjustment to make sure that it's an overall adjustment, you could say, for the whole footage, then that's great. We click on Apply to All. Now it's applied that color information to all. If you want to adjust the color information again, you can go back in and adjust it. But just remember to apply it to all again, unless the particular clip that you're on is got some color issues, so that you can just manually just select that clip and then adjust the color issues. But if you feel like it's something that needs to be happening across the whole lot, you click on that Apply All. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you about the freeze frame. I want to do a freeze frame. I've already applied the color that I'm happy with to settle with. And this is the last thing that I'll probably do at the end of the thing. Freeze frames would be the last thing I would do. Because we've done our color grading first, we can now do our snapshot, our freeze frame snapshot. And to do this, what we do is we select where we want our freeze frame to be. Then we click on this camera button, like a snapshot, and then it asks to save it. When you save the image, and you want to save this to the directory in which all your other files are in, and make sure you name it something that's significant that you can remember, and then it will put it into your content, media content. If you've got all your media content showing all your audio and visual and video and images, you may want to just turn off the audio and video so you can just see the images. Now, if you select this and drag this right where this line is, where you took the freeze frame shot from, make sure you do it like an overlap and let go. You can click on this Insert and Move All Clips. And that's exactly what it's done. It's inserted it. It will become a freeze frame. Move all the clips to the right, to the side, and now you'll see it freeze frame and then it'll carry on playing after that. So that's to see the effect of this. So it'll go full speed. Then it'll go into a slow-mo. You ready? Into the slow-mo. And then when it gets to that particular frame, it will freeze. There it is. And then it'll carry on. Now for some reason, that frame had a little bit of a clip on the sides there. I'm not sure why it did that. Have you noticed that or not? But it had a little tiny bit of a clip there. So that's a bit of a weird thing. It might be a bug in the software. Look, a little bit of a black frame there. A bit strange. But you see how that worked anyway. It inserted it, it done the freeze frame. So I'm going to now backtrack and show you another way that you can do a freeze frame. So I'm going to go backtrack. In the same position, we do a freeze frame. We go back into our action cam. And I want you to notice something here right at this point. We're back to an action cam, and you notice all our color grading's gone. You see that? This is, I'm going to go through this so that you avoid using this, so you can see what happens as a result. So this is the freeze frame. I've got this freeze frame button here. So I'm going to click freeze frame. It's going to add a freeze frame in there for us, which is great. Well, you would have thought so. And inside the freeze frame properties, we can choose how long we want that freeze frame to last for. I want that to last for 3 seconds. And now I'm going to click OK. So it's done the same thing again. It's constructed our action clips. And we're going to unpack these action clips so we can see what the files are that it's put inside there. We're going to click on show individual clips. And look what it's done. It's done exactly what we had done before. If we go, it took us to the beginning of the video a bit annoyingly. It's done exactly the same thing as what we've done manually. Is it literally just split the clip, put a snapshot in between, and then continued it afterwards. So let's just go and play this back and see what we got. So it goes into, oh, what happened there? Let's just go back. We go to there. Oh, now I hope you've noticed that. What happened there? It went from a nice, bright, vivid color adjustment to no color adjustment. Goes to a freeze frame. And then the color adjustment's applied again. Do you notice what happened there? By using the action cam center, what it's done is it's actually taken away the color information that we applied. And to show you this, I'm going to select this clip, go to fix and enhance, and you notice that color adjustment's turned off. If we turn it on, it's got nothing in there. No adjustment settings. This is why you want to avoid using the action cam center for freeze framing. You're better off to do it manually. So I'm going to go back, Control and Z. Before I've done this, I'm going to go to here. We're going to get our freeze frame where we want it. Remember, we've done our color adjustments at this point. It's all done. Just going to check it has been applied. No, I went too far back. So we're going to reapply our color adjustments. Bit of contrast, bit of saturation. Okay, apply that to all. Then we do our freeze frame. So we can click on this, take snapshot. Call this shot 2. Make sure you save it to the location where all your other files are. Great, there's my shot 2. The shot 2 is going to contain all the color information that we adjusted. Drag and drop that right where the timeline ended. We click on insert and move all clips. And now we've got a freeze frame with all the color adjustment in place. So I've just showed you this so that you can see why we don't use this action cam center for freeze frame. You can use the action cam center for your slow down or speed up. That's fine. But just be aware of that. Even after you use your slow down, speed up in your action cam, there's nothing stopping you from afterwards going to your crop, zoom and pan. We'll just play that. You could still use your crop, zoom and pan if you wanted to. Just to demonstrate this, I'm going to show you this. We hold it to there. and then we'll go back to full screen here. Okay, there's no reason why you can't do your pan and zoom in still. As you'll see, and a freeze frame. This colour information, by the way, that's in this Fix and Enhance, I want to apply this to everything. It didn't seem to have applied it to this clip, I don't think. It isn't, it's on it now. I want to be in movie mode. There we go. So the rules are, as a recap, if you want to do a slow-mo manually, you can just go in there. I'll pick another area. Manually, you just Control and T where you want it to slow-mo, Control and T where you want to stop the slow-mo, or within that area. You can choose then to give yourself a bit of space, hold down the Control key, apply the slow-mo like that, and then go in there with your crop, zoom and pan. Okay, and that's fine. You can do it that way. Or if you wanted to do the slow-mo using the Action Center, you can do it in there also. Action Cam Center. Make sure you've got no panning and zooming going on, otherwise it will not work. So you cannot do any panning and zooming if you want to do your time shifting or slow-mo. That's the rules. If you can do it manually, you can do your cropping and zooming. But if you're going to use this for your slow-mo, don't do no cropping and zooming first. Do this first, create your time shift zone, choose it, apply the speed effect and how slow you want it to go, and it will play slow in the area. Click OK. It will automatically do what it needs to do to the clip and create an action clip. You can then right click and expand that action clip. You can see there, show all individual clips, and then there's nothing to stop you from going in there, selecting another clip which has got some color information applied to it, and still apply that to that clip, and it will apply it. Okay, there's nothing to stop you from doing that. There's also nothing stopping you from doing your panning and zooming on your action clip after you've expanded it. Remember, I clicked on it was one of these to show you your action cam clip. So do your panning and zooming afterwards. That's a simple way of saying it. Do your panning and zooming after you do your slow-mo. Once you get to this point, you're going to want to have some music to go out on. So all your audio is the same level by this point. You've applied any special effects that you want. One other special effect that you may want to apply, and that would be possibly to how can I say it, to get around a mistake maybe, or maybe to avoid having to use this Fix and Enhance, this color adjustment. So I'm going to take the color enhancement off, apply to all, so it's removed it, so we've got the old color back, and instead I'm going to use an effect to apply the color rather than go to the Fix and Enhance. Let's give myself a little bit of room here. What we want is we want an effects track to be appearing after all of the movie footage. So we've got an effect track here. I'm going to drag this to be above. Okay, it's going to be above. This means that anything below it is going to apply to it. So in the effects, I'm going to go to FX, and you've got a multitude of stuff. I'm going to introduce you to one particular set of effects which is useful, and that's called the New Blue FX. And you've got this Color Fix Plus. I'm going to drag and drop this in here, and if you double click on this, you're going to have access to some settings in here, and I'm going to just adjust it to give me the overall look that I want. To apply it on a particular clip, you can move it around, or you can expand it to apply it to everything. So this would be an alternative if you wanted to apply it to everything instead of going to the fix and enhance and manually doing it. This would be like another way of doing it. So you can see there, we can apply a bit of saturation, a bit of brightness. We can add another effects. If we just right click, we click on add tracks. We don't want no more video, so we click 0 in there. We don't know what audio, 0, but I want to have, say, another 2 more effect tracks. Click OK. It's now added 2 more effect tracks. It's at the very top there, so I can go in there for another one there, which is quite good. Detail enhancer. This one is quite nice. It gives you more contrast. I'll go to it. By default, it's too much contrast. You've got all these different ones in here. So you can just bring down the strength. You don't need much of this. Great. So now that we've got these both in there, I'm going to zoom right out. I'm going to apply this to the whole entire video. Go from beginning to end. Same with this one. Go from beginning to end. So this would be a way in which you can get around the problem of a snapshot. If you created a snapshot as an example, and that snapshot was done before you've done your color enhancing, and you think, oh no, I've got no way of adding the color. This is one way you can get around it. So that's, say for instance, we do a snapshot. Let's just turn off these effects groups for the moment here. Got an effect track there, and we've got one above that, but we can just drag that to be, have all the effects together. We turn both the effects off, and we're going to go for the scenario where you forgot to add your color enhancement by the fix and enhance, and then you went and done a screenshot. I'll do it now. Call this free, just a speed. And then you go in there, you grab it, you put it in there, you click on insert and move all clips, and then you think, oh no, but I haven't done any color correction. The color correction can't be applied to a still image, you see. But if you have already done that mistake, you can apply the effects and it will apply it. So I'm going to show you. There you go. So the effect is actually being applied to the still image as well as the video. So if you had made the mistake and you've done a screenshot without doing your color enhancements first, this is one way you can get around that problem, by using an effect for your color enhancement instead. And there's plenty of effects that you can choose from this. Some of them are special effects more than others. So I'll just drag this down to where these are. Go to effects, there's more effects in there. Crop borders, pixelate, flash removing, blue tint, touch up, right. And a touch up effect. And it's always handy to kind of turn off the previous effects to see what this one's doing by itself. You've got some presets in here. A blemish be gone. I think the touch up is actually for creating like a filter for your face, kind of like the iPhone does. You can apply any effects that you want on there. I'm going to delete that. Now we're going to move on to the last step. We've got an intro kind of going here at the beginning. We may want to have some other title effects inside here, like at the very beginning. So I will go to title. I've got some custom ones that I've saved. See that one there? the way you create your custom ones is, first of all, you want to go and view the one that you're likely to use quite often and then edit it. So like that one was quite good. I quite like that one. So I will add that title to a video track. It always has to be at the top. We double click on it. And if you just play it.
It's a lovely morning. It's the 2nd of September.
To the point where it's fully seen there, as you can see there. You press the escape key, that will bring you out of the title editor anytime. I'm going to go forward so I can see this in action. I'll call this fishing, whatever you want to call it. And then up here you often will see the where you can type in text, or you can do it directly on here. Put the date, whatever it may be. Good idea if you spell it right. Give it a good name, the location maybe, or something like that. Whatever that may be, you can change your colour. I like to actually have a border. I find that if I want to have a white, then if I select border, it will create a nice colour around it of your choosing, and you can still read it. You can still read it. So if you ever get to a point where the text is not showing properly, turn on border and that will apply it. You can also save as. Call that fishing 2. And then what that will do is it will save that for a template for the future. If you go to your custom now, you'll see there is fishing 2. See that there? And I've added my own custom ones. We've got one there to add additional information. So I'm going to choose that one.
It's a lovely morning. It's the 2nd of September 2020.
And at some point during the video, you may have statistics to show on the screen.
0.7 metre.
0.7 metre. So what I will probably do is I'll probably bring in one of these presets that I made, same way as I did it before. We've got commenting. These are my own ones, like tides. I'm going to use this again, so I'm going to drag and drop this in there.
Although it's a 0.7 metre.
You can type in all you need. While you're talking, you've got some visual stuff going on the screen to verify what you're saying in the footage.
It's not necessarily that great for me for fishing right now.
So you can see here, you can add all these titles in here. You can add your effects. You can even do voiceovers. So for a voiceover, I would pick an area that will do a voiceover. Like that. I might not be able to do it right now to demonstrate it because I'm actually using my mic to record this video. But you go to the voiceover section here and you choose your mic. It looks like it might allow me to do it. You want to click on mute all tracks and then start recording. So let's just try this, shall we? It's a good idea to get that lug on really tight against the hook and make sure you fully thread it through. You press it again and then it will stop, and then it will create a track at the top there somewhere with your voiceover. Okay, you want to go to your voiceover and you'll want to get it the right level, so I'm going to make it loud enough. Let's play this back. It's a good idea to get that lug on really tight against the hook and make sure you fully thread it through. So now that I've done that voiceover, there may be some sound still from the previous track or tracks. So you can see these tracks here. They've got like a split in between them a little bit there, but the main audio is appearing over this track here. And it may be the case that the audio from the background is too loud and it's overpowering your voice. This is when you use this feature. You right click and go to video editing. Audio, edit audio, and you click on audio ducking. Inside audio ducking, it's pretty much set up the way you would want to apply it. The sensitivity I leave at about 91%. The ducking level is to basically how much it's going to crush the background noise by, or the level by, while you're speaking. You can see here I've previously chosen 92%. 92% of the background audio is going to be taken out while I'm speaking. Click OK, and then you'll notice here that you've got this automatic keyframing happening for you, which is indicating that you've got some background noise that you want to be taken out of there. Yeah, so what I'm going to do now is, you see the music is overlapping here just a little bit here. I'm going to go to this clip here. I didn't really want this in here like that, so I'm going to just bring that back up. You should better just remove it as well. I'm not sure what key it is to remove it, but looks like it's the control key. And yeah, the reason why I removed that is because when you do the audio ducking, if there's any audio above this clip, which there is, a piece of music, is going to also duck that as well. But we only want it for ducking for this speech here. That's up there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play it back, and you'll see that when I start to speak, the background original footage of the audio ducks down for me. Ready? It's a good idea to get that lug on really, really tight against the hook and make sure you fully thread it through. So you see that the audio is automatically ducked in. This is called audio ducking, and it's done it for the fact that I've got audio above there. Just bear that in mind, that it may actually create additional points, or shall I say keyframes, if you've got some music over an area. That also includes that as well. So you just hold to the control key and you can delete any keyframes that you don't want to be there, which is all good and dandy. Finally, we get to the very end of this where we have the music. You would probably want to fade out your video. So what you would do is you'll go to your transitions and you'll just use the old normal fade, and it will fade it to black. Before it fades to black, you would normally have some music coming in. So we would go to our media, go to media content, and I'm going to choose music, background music. And we'll choose something that's kind of mellow day. I do. We're going to drag and drop that into there. We listen to it. If I intend to have some credits afterwards, I'll keep the music going through the credits. If not, I'll start the music way before, so I've got a little bit more music going on. Okay, that's fine. I'll cut the music there. I don't want no credits in this particular case, so I'm going to cut it right there. Delete what's after it. I'm then going to go to my music and I'm going to have a fade out. I'm going to go to my keyframe, go towards the end. I'm going to have it fading out. If I wanted to fade out, I don't need to in this particular case because this music fades itself out, this particular track I've chosen. But if I wanted to fade it out, I go to here and near the end, and I'll just go like that. And it will fade it out to nothing. And let's just go back a couple of steps here. I'm going to just delete that keyframe with the control key, takes it back to there again. Let's just go back into the keyframe. We're going to go to here, create a keyframe. You always got to create a keyframe before you do your fade out, because it's got to go between one key to the next key in which it's timed. And then we're going to go to there. There's the fade out there. Then it had this. It fade out at the same time as the actual video fades out. Again, we're in click mode. We're going to go movie mode to see the full thing. Okay, same for the audio on the actual video footage itself. I want that to fade out, so I'm going to just go to roughly in line to where the music fades out, and I'm also going to fade that out with the keyframe. So I'm going to go to there. It's already in the right place for us already, so I'm going to create a key, go to the end of the video, the very end, and then bring the volume down to nothing. And then you'll see that both the music's going to fade out, the audio for the video is going to fade out at the same time, and our effects would need to be going all the way to the end as well. I need to fade them out, but you can if you wanted to. So let's go and play this in movie mode. It should all fade together. Finally, when you're done, you're going to go to the produce. You want to make sure you save various versions of your file as you go along. Make sure your fast video recording technology is turned on, hardware video encoding. If you want to find the best encoder settings, you can go to Profile Analyzer. You will have a look, and it's found one that's 90% close match. You can then go back in there to edit that afterwards. Go to video, and it may be that the average bit rate is very, very high. So what you can do at this point is you can bring that down a little bit. I found you can go quite low. I could probably go down to probably about 2 for that. I'm going to go in speed mode just for this particular case so that we can get through the video. I'm also going to decrease this to a 1080p if there's one in the profile there. There it is, 1920 by 1080, and that all fits quite well for me there. Yep, and then I'll be back when this is done. This is the final short. I'm going to be commenting over the top of this. So we've got the intro.
It's a lovely morning. It's the 2nd of September 2020, and I'm down at the first lot of great rocks between Bridgeway and Old Stamco. Fortunately, the only problem with today is, although it's a 0.7 metre,
We've got statistics on the screen.
it's not necessarily that great for me for fishing right now, because I've just passed all the snagged areas and they're covered over now.
We've got a bit of music with a middle part to keep the viewer interested, to break up the video a little bit, indicate time is going by. It's a good idea to get that lug on really, really tight against the hook and make sure you fully thread it through. There we've got the action part of the video.
Catch of a lifetime.
We have the picture-in-picture at the right-hand side.
This is a form back ray.
Screenshot. Get the snapshots. then the music's going to fade out to go back to the normal session again.
What a catch, what a catch. So excited I didn't even measure it.
We've got a cast with some slow-mo using the Action Cam sensor.
That was a good cast. Got a good distance with that.
Crossfade to indicate time has gone by. We've got another cast, and the same thing again, we're going to have a slow-mo, I believe, through the cast. Also, we added a zoom after doing the slow-mo with the Action Center, with a snapshot in between as well. And then we have the end of the video, with some music's going to come in, with some voiceover. Overall, this was a fantastic session, and I found that this is one of the best catches that I've had this year, which was a nice 4-pound thornback ray. So thanks for watching, and bye, and I hope to see you again soon with Beach UK. Whenever there's voiceovers, I'm using audio ducking. And that's it. That's the process of going through with Power Director, going from beginning to end, things to avoid, and how to apply effects, voiceovers, audio ducking, how to apply transitions, zooming in, zooming out, freeze frames with snapshots. It's all in there.